All right, Tyler Hall, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I got my Jocko sponsored by, well, not sponsored by, maybe we should set that deal up on the podcast. That's the real reason why I had you over here. This came from your store.
Yes.
Which you guys sell.
Those have been popular. Are you a Jocko fan?
I am. I'm not like a huge follower, but I'd like to listen to some of his stuff. He had what was that book? Extreme Ownership, I think.
Yep.
That was a good book.
Have you've read it?
Yeah, I have. It's on my phone or it's on audio.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good books. I've read Extreme Ownership, and a lot of it does make sense. I enjoy listening to his stuff. He's pretty intense, but I think a lot of stuff he does say makes sense.
Yeah.
So
he's I think he's an ex-Navy SEAL, right? And he's got some pretty crazy stories. Just super good at leadership. He
does. Yeah, he's great at leadership. The story I think of the most with him is, I'm big into the outdoors. There's a dude named John Dudley. He owns something called Knock On Archery. Very big dude, and he got into jiu-jitsu, and they had told a story like John, the first time he rolled with Jocko, I think broke his neck or something like that. So,
now, is this the same guy that he's partnering with and creating, what's the clothing brand? Origin?
You know what? So Dudley has been with Sitka, I think, at one point, but him and Jocko are good buddies, and obviously Jocko's got that's Jocko's brand, Origin. So I could see them collabing and trying to build that brand up. There's another dude named Cameron Haynes.
Yes,
yeah,
love that guy.
Yeah, and Cam, I feel like Cam's been wearing that Origin stuff too. I haven't checked it out, but it's definitely getting some popularity, and their whole thing, from my understanding around that brand, is like everything is American made and sourced. I feel like they went as far to say like they're real transparent. Like there's only one thing that they couldn't get, and I can't remember what product it was, but that's super cool. I enjoy listening to those guys. Cam Haynes has a book too that I've read, especially if you're into the outdoors. All those guys are like super mentally tough.
Oh, they are. Yeah. They are. For those that maybe haven't listened, Cam Haynes, he's isn't he like a big marathon runner? Like he's a runner and a hunter.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. He's an endurance athlete, and likes to work out, lift, big into the outdoors, and like his mindset behind like all his training is like, hey, I'm prepping myself to go hunt, elk in the mountains,
And he doesn't like to hunt with a gun, right? He likes to hunt with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, he's always like bow and arrow, which is super cool. And he's another one. Reading his book, like you just read. And some of these guys' schedule, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing enough. These guys are getting up. And
it's when you compare yourselves to those guys. I mean, they got to be the top, like 0.01%.
I'm wanting to say, what did his book say? I mean, he's definitely, I think, ran a 5K before everyone gets up, and it might have even been like a half marathon.
Probably a half marathon.
So, and if you follow him on social media, you can. I mean, I believe it. Like, I think every day he posts, like there's some rock, wherever he runs to the top of the mountain and stands on this rock. And
he has this really cool series called Lift, Run, Shoot, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
It's like a, 20-minute YouTube video where he'll take like a lot of times pretty popular people. I think he actually just took, was it Aaron Rodgers?
I think it was, because I've seen Aaron post like he got his first bow.
Okay. Yeah, so he'll take one of these athletes and they do a segment, lift, run, and shoot. So like lift, they'll go hit the gym. Run, they'll go do, I forget what the mountain is called, but they'll carry the rock up the mountain. And then they'll go shoot. And a lot of times, doesn't he have them shoot like 100-yard shot or something?
They're always shooting super far, like 100 yards. Yeah. I'm like, I can't even see 100 yards shooting through my bow. So,
well, before we get too far into this, so I think that most people probably know Nutrition HQ, the brand, but they probably don't know who's behind the brand. So I guess first of all, were you originally from Quincy here, or did you grow up in Quincy?
Yeah, no, great question. So I grew up in a small town called Argyle, Iowa. So I usually tell everybody Keokuk because no one's heard of Argyle. Like I think we had a bar and a post office. Yep. I went to high school at Central Lee, and I just have always like been around Quincy my whole life. Growing up, I was like, hey, I could see myself living there.
This was the big city.
Yeah, it was, believe it or not. And so I went to school at Western, got my bachelor's degree in business. business with like a finance focus. Lived over in Missouri for a while, so I just kind of kept inching closer to Quincy, and I came here to actually run the supplement store as Complete Nutrition. And, that's what kind of established my roots here. And then, of course, I met my wife, Megan. And
was she from here?
Yep, she's from here, born and raised. She went to Quincy Christian, really small school here locally. We got married in 2018. And in the same year, that's when I actually purchased the store. So I was like, I'm definitely calling this place home. And I'm a big fan of Quincy. I think there's a lot of great stuff going on in Quincy, and I really enjoyed it. I think we're close to bigger cities if we want to bounce to St. Louis or even Chicago. Yep. So,
Yeah, it is a very unique town. Just, we're 2 hours from a major metro.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're on an island, and it's like you got to survive with these people around you. You got to get along.
Yes.
And I think for the most part, we do. Like Quincy's a good, clean community.
Yeah.
For those that aren't maybe from Quincy listening, I mean, you guys probably don't quite understand, but it really because there's not many communities around us that we're like this hub. All these small towns around us all flow into Quincy, so it's like we're kind of a small town to like a big city person,
yes.
But yet it's a pretty thriving town.
Yes, I would agree. And that's what I love about Quincy. It pulls from all them small towns. So I look at where I grew up, from a business owner standpoint, where we've got all this pull. Where I grew up, a lot of these people commute to Quincy. Yeah. And as we're adding more, or come to Quincy to shop and, buy their groceries, Quincy's the place to go. That's where I used to go when I was growing up. I remember, obviously it's not the mall anymore, but I remember as a kid going to the mall and Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
I thought it was the coolest thing. But, Quincy just pulls so much. And, as we're adding more stuff, I'm super excited. I think it's just going to attract more people to Quincy and put more eyes on, us from a business standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot going on right now, a lot of development. I mean, we've been talking about, I'm hoping to have a lot of the guys that are doing this stuff on the podcast, to just talk about the vision, behind what's going on. Cause there's a lot of stuff happening. I mean, it's going to be funny to people who are from a big town, but big news to us is oh, we're getting a Cane's or a Target was huge.
Yeah.
All these things. So
I think it is huge. I look at my wife. I mean, I don't know how much money she spent at Target, and literally she would travel to these bigger towns to go to Target. So I think that, it's going to hold true for us too. So, and I look at, so I'm sure several people have been to Nutrition HQ, but we're in the strip center by Hy-Vee. And I remember when I first started working at the supplement store, there was not a lot there, not a lot going on, and they've really built that strip center up. And I feel like we're in the best part in town. With Target right across the street, Raising Cane's. I am under the impression they might be building another strip center over there.
Okay. I have heard that. I think I've seen some drawings, but I'm not sure where they're at with that.
Sure, yeah. And then Planet coming to town, it's created more people thinking about health and fitness.
Yeah.
So, I love it.
So you said a minute ago, was it not always branded Nutrition HQ?
Yeah, great question. So it used to be Complete Nutrition, okay? So kind of where all this started is, my dad has been in the industry for years, okay? And he used to own GNCs, and he had wanted to get away from them and had sold, and he latched onto a guy that started Complete Nutrition who used to own GNCs. And he opened up several stores under Complete Nutrition. Well, then he ultimately ended up kind of wanting to get away from that and do his own thing. And that's kind of where Nutrition HQ blossomed. It's been Nutrition HQ since, 2015.
Okay.
And I purchased it in 2018. So I've owned it. Man, I've been around for the whole ride. I remember when we had to take down the Complete Nutrition sign due to what we're doing, our franchise agreement being done, and there is a point where there is no sign on the front of the building. So, and people that have been shopping with us for years, I mean, they can see kind of what we blossomed into.
Definitely.
It's been quite the ride.
So there's probably so much more that goes on behind the scenes and what people realize. When you think about, if I wanted to go start a GNC, you're kind of building on the base that GNC already has. They order the product, I assume, and all this. But when your dad started his own thing, essentially he's creating his own franchise.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you guys are the ones that are deciding, here's the product that we're selling, here's how much we need to buy? I mean, you're managing the whole thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, when he So when I purchased the store in 2018, there really wasn't even a franchise. We signed a license deal for me to just to use the name, and it was been a learning curve. Like, we had to find new vendors, and then, you have to do your due diligence on the vendors and make sure they're a good fit, make sure they're properly licensed and have all the stamps of approval. And we're trying to create, and when I say we, my dad owns a franchise, so he does have a franchise set up now. And kind of what sparked that is, as Quincy grew, he's like, oh, I think, people will want to open more of these up. So like in Quincy, we're the poster child, and everybody's kind of trying to mirror like what we're doing in Quincy. And we're creating more structure and learning. And it's definitely been a learning curve. Like, hey, what brings people in? What's the best brands? All that stuff. When I talk about business in regards, like the thing that's real important to me is like, hey, what will get people in the door, and that's where like we've put a lot of effort in. And, I don't know if you've ever got to do that thing in the store called the in-body.
I have. Yep.
So that was like one piece of the pie we added to it, obviously the right brands. Something that actually we'll get in today to talk about is we are relaunching our ambassador program, and we've put like a ton of thought in that. And as we started to relaunch that, we wanted to like think about like, hey, what do we want to be known for? What are we known for? And when these people become a part of us, like, what do we want them to be advocating for us? And we came up with 3 things, community, wellness, and kindness. So we've spent a lot of time working on that. And what I mean by those 3 things are, we call them the 3 pillars.
Say that one more time.
Community, kindness, and wellness. Okay. So we call them the 3 pillars of Nutrition HQ in Quincy. And why those meant so much to us is like, community is so important to me, being involved in the community, giving back to the community. Like, I just think it makes a better place for you to live. Okay. And then kindness, like, that just fits my personality. Like, that's a real important thing. Like, I want everybody to feel welcome. But when you talk specifically about like nutrition and health, I think it's so hard for people to get started, you know? And I think, having empathy and being kind to people as they're seeking guidance to get healthier is like super important. Okay. And then wellness, of course, that's what we're doing, and understanding wellness looks different to everybody. So where I was going with that though, is I was going to say, being involved in the community, I think it's such an important thing to like growing the store and getting people in the store. So
what are some of the ways that you found help get people in the door, like help get you out in the community to like make people aware of you guys?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I haven't found like one thing that does all the work, but like customer service, that kind of sounds funny, but you spend all these time trying to get people in the store, but once they're in the store, like making sure they're taken care of. And I read this book called this Customer Service Revolution, and it talks about creating an experience in the store. And like, if you're any of the guys that work for me, you've probably heard me talk about it. Like, I want it to be an experience when you come in the store. So like, I want you to walk in and go, oh, this is like really cool. And the people are made to feel special. I think of, going back to the outdoors, I remember the first time I bought my bow. Like, I just thought it was the coolest thing. When I got my first bow, I think I was 15, like, the guy like measured me and shot and helped me sight it in. I just remember like, man, that was so awesome. And honestly, I couldn't wait to buy my next bow. So in ways we've done that is going back to the in-body, like, being personal is so important to me, like getting to know the person. We do a lot of in-store sampling. And, that's where the customer service really comes into play. Of course, knowledge too. Really just understanding the person.
Well, hey, firsthand experience. So I went in actually to buy another, I buy these by the case. And I walk in and like one of your employees called me by name, and I was kind of like, how do you know my name? So I guess that's something that they're picking up on, like, because you probably have told them, or you've probably talked about like calling people by their first name. It means a lot, because you feel like, oh, they know me. I feel like part of the crew.
I agree. I think of places where I've went in and like when somebody remembers my name, it makes me feel special. I'm like, oh, that's really cool that they took the time to kind of know me. And I agree. Customer service, such a big thing. Another thing, radio. A lot of people are not big on radio, but I still like radio. So we'll use that to kind of spread the good word about us. And I like to use that as an opportunity to talk about maybe a product like I'm really big on. And then events in the community. We really enjoy doing a lot of events, and as we're ramping up this new program, the ambassador program, or relaunching it, I think is a better terminology. We want to do more community stuff in 2024. So
what is that? What does that mean, ambassador program?
Yeah. So, as we grew, like, there's a lot of people that shop with us that are great people, and like, hey, I really like you guys, and I feel like you've helped me, and like, I want to help you spread the good word about Nutrition HQ. Like, I want to be a representative for you. Like, I don't want to work for you. They've got their own full-time job. So yeah, they just kind of want to help spread the good word. Okay. And we've always kind of had something like that. And we have a lot of very good people in the program now. But it's kind of like with anything, as you grow, like, stuff needs to evolve and become, get better. And, we had it closed down for really about the past 1.5 to 2 years, and wasn't really taking on anybody new. And we finally were like, hey, we need to relaunch this. There's a lot of great people that are wanting to be a part of us, and why would we not want to be a part of us? So we've put a lot of thought into the program. I bet we've got over 24 hours of meetings in regards to this thing. And actually, that's what I've been doing the past 2 days. We have a committee, and we've been doing interviews. I think we had around a little over 50 people apply for it. So yesterday was interviews all day. Today this morning and early afternoon we had interviews. That's why I had to push back on you a little bit. And we just want to get to know the people, and without sharing names, like one of the particular person that interviewed with us, they're just like, hey, I've been on my weight loss journey. You've helped me a ton. Like, I really think you guys are great people, and you've made me feel special, and I feel like I could do the same with other people. And another thing that's great with these people in the program is they can be like a little bit more relatable. So what I mean by that is, like Gage or me, I'm in a little different place. Let's use Gage as an example. Gage is like in great shape, he's a younger guy, no kids though. So sometimes I think people might have a hard time relating to him, versus like somebody else that's been at one place in their journey and has gotten somewhere else, if that makes sense. Like a big thing for me is I've been probably the most relatable out of all of our staff, like since I started having kids. I'm like, oh,
you understand the time constraints and what goes into like keeping your health up.
Yeah, and since business has grown, which is, presented as challenges, but it's been like a great thing for business because it's gave me more empathy for people. So yeah.
Sounds like a cool program. How do you, I guess, is that something where the person has to, so they're a representative of the brand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so they're using your products. I guess where I'm going with this is, does Nutrition HQ, do you guys have your own line, like your own supplements, or are you strictly like reselling third-party supplements?
Yeah, no, great question. We're strictly reselling third-party brands. And what I like about this is we can kind of pick and choose, like, hey, we think, Core Nutritionals, they're like our favorite protein, and this is why we like it. We like this one the best for this reason, okay? TB16 is like our flagship product. It's great for like energy, feeling good. So that's who we use for like our energy, people looking for energy or looking to maybe fight cravings. So we kind of pick and choose who we think has the best product in each category. Now, down the road, you look a year out, 2 years out, I would love to dabble in our own brand.
Yeah.
And like it's been on my radar for a couple of years, and I've even like went to as far as to like have some calls with some private label companies, but I just don't feel like I'm in a position to effectively do it. I'm like navigating life and the home life, the work, and the fitness balance, and so I don't want to just like wing it. I kind of want to go on with some more thought.
There's a lot of questions I have about this whole thing because I love this industry. It's such a cool industry. Have you noticed that like over the last, you've been kind of in the business since 2015, you said.
Yeah.
Have you seen a shift in the way that companies are selling their product where it's less these massive big brands and it's more kind of like what you're talking about, these ambassadors or like I'd almost call them like influencers to some extent, where no longer, like I'm more interested in buying an energy drink based on the person behind it than, the actual taste or, what the drink is. Like because I followed for many years like these different, like a Jocko, or I love like guys like Max Tuning and the Sour Strips, or guys like Christian Guzman and like Alpha Lee, the brand. So have you seen the industry start to shift more of like, oh, this drink is this person's drink?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. There's two things I'll say in regards to like where the industries went. One, definitely people supporting people. Usually there's some face behind the company. And I literally just did the same thing you're talking about with a pre-workout powder that we brought in. There's a guy named Conlin on social media, and he does nothing but like review supplements, okay, which is super cool. Like he'll get the Jocko can, he'll get that flavor, he'll drink it and say, hey, I give it a 5 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, whatever he rates it. And same thing with like protein snacks. Well, I enjoy this content. Also, it kind of helps me like find new brands. Yep. But he started his own pre-workout company. Okay. And like one, I wanted to support him because I like him. And then two, in my mindset, the formula looked good, but another thing in my mindset was, well, he has all this experience with all these other powders. Like I would think he would have a good idea what he's doing when it comes to like formulating his own product, and it's done really well. Another thing though, like what we're in right now is the era of like collabs, man. Yeah. Everybody's collabing, which is like super fun. It's taking me back to childhood. We've seen Rise, they're a popular company right now. They paired up with Country Time Lemonade. So they have a pre-workout powder in that flavor and an energy drink. They paired up with Ring Pop and made a Ring Pop flavor. Okay. Actually, they just launched a Skippy peanut butter. So yeah, it's been fun to see them collaborate with some of these companies and make these flavors. So.
How do you stay on top of all the? I mean, not only are you managing a store and employees and a family, but then like staying on top of like, oh, here's this new brand that's coming out. Let's try it and let's, how do you manage all that?
Yeah, social media helps me out a lot in regards to like keeping track. Vendors, a lot of them will reach out and try to, tell me what's coming down the pipe. But awesome, man. Like I have some really great guys that work for me. So like if I'm not catching something, they're usually, bringing it to my attention. Yep. So it's definitely like a group effort. I'll be straight though. Sometimes I do miss stuff. But it's my workload is definitely full.
Oh, I'm sure. So on that, talking about the employees, like I've noticed you've had, it seems like a couple guys have been there for quite a while.
Yeah.
I kind of talked to Derek about this on one of my episodes, just, employees and keeping good people, but any, tips and tricks to people, I mean, who might have a business, and are looking to surround themselves with like a solid team.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Boy, it's, definitely that can be a challenge. I've been very fortunate to have some great employees, and that's something I've been investing a lot of time in. Like, hey, how can I be a better leader? And I know that's like a real broad term, but like, how can I make the employees that work for me feel special? How can I, have them in their sweet spot? So what I mean by that is like them doing good at what they're good at, and and maybe being less involved with maybe their weak points, and where we all kind of complement each other. I would encourage like one, definitely consume leadership stuff. I'm working with, I'm sure of Payne here locally, and Payne has like really opened my eyes up to like understanding, everybody's kind of different. I never really thought about that before. So what I mean by that is like, he uses that DISC assessment, and like I understand what type of person I am versus like what type of person maybe Gage is, or what type of person Damon is. And when you look at that, are you familiar with the DISC?
I am, yeah. I've taken it a couple times, yeah.
It, man, like when you start describing, they call me like the peacekeeper, and like the type of person is like, I am like, I don't want to necessarily be in the spotlight. I kind of want to step to the back, and like I want everybody to get along, and I just like to, I like numbers and checklists and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, this totally makes sense. And versus like Gage, okay, he's got a lot of energy, like. So I'm like, if I need some public speaking stuff done, I feel like that's probably more up his alley. So yeah, that's been great, kind of understanding people a little bit more. So
yeah, investing in the team is huge. I mean, without the team, your store is, hardly anything.
Oh no, yeah, it's been such a group effort to build the brand here in town. And another thing like that was real important to me is I always wanted my employees to I wanted to treat them like the way I wanted to be treated as as an employee. And my mindset is hey, I don't want to run my employees dry. Also if they're talking to their family about their job, I want them to think man, I have a great job, flexible, I make good money, we can make, if I want to go do something, we can make it happen. And I just kind of want us all to kind of have each other's back. I don't even like being looked at as the boss. I just like I said, I don't know. I just never really wanted that kind of attention. So
yeah, no, I felt the same way. I don't have as big of a team as you do, but even the people I do have around me, I sometimes don't even like the word boss. It's just no, we're partners, we're teammates here.
Yes.
Eventually someone's got to take ownership for it. Sometimes I have a hard time doing that, but
yes.
Yeah. So why earlier you said that Quincy has become kind of the flagship location. Why is that?
We definitely have excelled the most in the brand, and stuff just really clicked. I bought it in 2018, and once I bought it, we wanted to make some changes in the store, and I wanted to call some shots that I couldn't necessarily control, and and then a lot of stuff just aligned for us in Quincy. And I'll be straight, we've worked really hard in Quincy. I feel like we've paid our dues. I think sometimes people see where the brand is now, but there was a lot of boring times. There would be, this is no joke, times that no one would come through the store in one day, which now you walk in and we're extremely busy.
Yeah.
But I think we're very involved. I think being in the community helps a lot, and networking, meeting people, getting out of your comfort zone. So it's and we all have our strengths. Gage is really good at jiu-jitsu, so we were involved with the jiu-jitsu gyms. There's a little local gym called Midwest. The guys like to work out there. I bounce around to all the different gyms, so we try to be everywhere.
Yeah. Hey, I've saw you CrossFit a couple times there.
Yes, and I'm going to be down there. I've told Tad, I've told Curtis. I'm going to do the Murph. Are you doing the Murph here?
I'm not. Good luck. We did a kind of a training recently, and kind of ran through a similar workout. Murdered me.
I can relate.
But isn't it interesting though? We're talking about health and fitness, you just kind of lump it into one thing, but there are so many different buckets you can put that in. I mean, in terms of how you work out, what you do. I mean, like we just said, there's Midwest, which I picture, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more powerlifting, heavy, lifting heavy things. And then you've got CrossFit, which we're kind of made fun of a lot of times for the crazy movements we do down there, but it's a lot of cardio based workouts,
high intensity training. What I love about CrossFit right now is I get a hard time from you guys because I'm I'll come down and then I don't show up. But I've been there enough where I like to just go down there, get it done. I've actually been kind of trying to do some stuff to prep for the Murph because, like I said, I've told enough people I'm going to do it. If I don't show up, I don't know if I'll be able to show my face in public. But what I love about it is I do this, and this, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And you know how it is after a CrossFit workout. When I would lift, don't get me wrong, it would be challenging, of course, but I'll be drenched after I hammer out a workout down there.
Yeah,
and
it's just different. I mean, I do miss, I used to go to the YMCA, used to go to Snap Fitness back in the day, and the Croc Center, where it's just a lot more just lifting weights, your curls, your bench presses, your squats. I would hardly even break a sweat doing it, where CrossFit's just completely different. You're not doing as many heavy lifts. I don't know how was it a compound movement, or I don't know how you would say it, but less just focusing on one muscle, and more full body, high intensity, just knock it out, get it done.
Fast pace, little rest time. So it's that, I would agree with you there. So
did you do any sports or jiu-jitsu or anything like that growing up?
So growing up, I wrestled for the longest time, but high school I played football, golfed, and then baseball. Those are the three main things I did. So
did you, from a young age, did you always enjoy the fitness industry, or was that something that later in life you're oh, this makes sense, let's do this?
I definitely enjoyed it. When I was at younger age, I definitely didn't know what I was doing. I'm if I could go back and tell myself, just half of the stuff I know now. At that younger age, it's so simple. Just really just eating enough food and drinking enough water and you'll progress really well. But what's nice about that now is I know what I didn't know when I was that age. So when I'm helping kids that age, it's easy for me to help them and kind of point them in the direction. So,
well, I did one of the questions I wanted to ask you is like to the general public, like if you were just like broadcasting a message out there, like, hey, here's like a couple simple things to like improve your health, because like it is overwhelming for some people. Like they don't know where to begin. It's like you don't want to go 0 to 100. Like, hey, let's all of a sudden do 7 workouts a week, for 3 hours in the gym. What's just a couple like simple things you would recommend people do to like start?
Get healthier. Yeah, I love that question. And actually, that's like my favorite person to help. Someone that's like just getting started, okay? And I always say, hey, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. So like I look for stuff that we can maybe change that's not going to be like super shocking. And I agree with you. Like it's very common for people to come in and go from like one end of the spectrum to the other. Yeah. And I'm not crazy about that because I'm always worried about them getting burnt out. But the advice I would give is like, hey, one, drink more water, okay?
How much?
Yeah, great question. I tell people half a gallon. And I'm getting that information from my nutrition class. I took a class called Precision Nutrition. And some people need more, some people need less, but that's just like a good blanket statement. And then the other one is be mindful of liquid calories. Okay, we can really rack up some liquid calories if we don't pay attention. And then the next thing if someone's trying to shoot for weight loss, that could be the difference between them being in a calorie surplus and a calorie deficit. And then another thing is steps. A lot of us have watches, but boy, getting steps in can make a big difference. So I tell people to shoot for at least over 10,000 if possible. Okay.
What do you think the average person? Because I've never really tracked my steps. What would the average person, do you think, get?
Boy, that's a good question. So I get quite a bit of steps a day, but I'm super fidgety and can't sit still.
And you're also on your feet pretty much all day.
Yeah,
right?
I would say I get over, I've looked at my watch, like usually 10 is no problem, but a lot of times, 12, 13,000. Let's say it's someone working an office job, I bet a couple thousand if they're not mindful. And like where I'm kind of basing this information is my wife has an office job and she works in the marketing department at the Salvation Army. And, I've like asked her like, hey, where's your steps at? And usually I feel like it's around a couple thousand. So that's just, such a, obviously you have to be mindful of it, but, getting steps in is like, I feel like an easier thing to do. And, that could consist of just parking farther in the parking lot,
the little things.
Or taking the stairs instead of the elevator. So those are probably the 3 most important things. If I was to throw in another one, I would say like be mindful of your protein. Like I feel like a lot of us undereat on protein, totally guilty of that right now. And when I say protein, it's not because I'm trying to sell protein powder. Like what I'm actually referencing there is like your chicken, your fish, your eggs, like start there. And then if you can't get enough through that, then that's where we would maybe consider supplementing with a powder. So
is there a rule of thumb you follow with the protein, like gram per pound of body weight or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like pending they don't have any health issues, and more specifically like what I'm thinking of is like kidney issues. I tell people like 0.6 or 0.7 to 1.2 grams per pound of your weight. Okay. And the reason I tend to lean more on like the 0.6 or 0.7 because it goes back to that thing like walking before you're running. Like if people like maybe track their protein for a day or two, it'll be pretty eye-opening. A lot of people just undereat. So usually it's a chore to even get to that 0.6 or 0.7. And another rule of thumb, even if you wanted to simplify it, like, hey, just at each meal have a palm-sized portion of protein, and that'll be a good start. And protein, what it's going to do is it's going to help with like energy, keeping you more satisfied. It'll help with your metabolism, supporting and maintaining muscle. Like I can tell you, like the past couple months, I've been like pretty achy, and I know it's because I'm not eating enough protein. So you just have to be more mindful about getting more in. So.
You probably heard of Andy Fusilla.
Yeah.
So he owns do you guys sell any First Form stuff?
So we have some of the drinks and the protein snacks. Okay. Yeah.
I guess the reason why I brought him up is I'm sure you've also heard of his program 75 Hard. I don't know if it's as trendy anymore or if it's kind of slowed down, but it seems like a couple of years ago, like everyone was doing 75 Hard. And I've done it, I should say I only have completed it one time, like actually completed it the real way. And then I've done it like 3 other times, just kind of, because I like the regiment of it.
Yes.
But it's probably not something that the beginner should start, just because it's like a gallon of water and 2 workouts a day. It's pretty intense. But I feel like doing that taught me how much protein, or how, I guess I wasn't getting near enough protein in. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So that was because you have to have a fitness goal in that challenge. And mine was, I want to hit 200 grams of protein per day. That was so hard.
Challenging.
For me. Very challenging. And I would have guessed, I'm like, oh yeah, I probably eat 150, 180 grams of protein a day. No, I was eating like on average, like maybe a little over 100, just, in the average day, if even sometimes.
It's funny you say, like, we'll get people in pretty often to go, I feel like I get a lot of protein in, and then, we'll just kind of start asking a little more questions. And, like maybe it's an egg in the morning, a little bit of chicken at lunch, and then maybe a piece of meat at night. And, really that, 1 egg's just 7 grams, mm-hmm. Depending on the size of their chicken, 20 grams. So really they're coming like 60 grams, 75 grams. So you definitely have to be mindful. So what I use a lot to get my protein up is, there's a guy I follow on Instagram, and he's on TikTok too, but it's called The Flexible Dieting Lifestyle. And he's got all these healthy recipes, and he what is some of like our favorite foods that he puts a better take on. That's something actually like to kind of spin off him. Back in, I think it was January, I taught a healthy cooking class at the Mount Sterling Y. And like my mindset around nutrition is like, I feel like a lot of times we think we need to eat super restrictive, and I think there's a time and place for that, depending on what your goal is. But like, I think we can all eat a lot of our favorite stuff. We just have to have portion control, and hey, how can we make a better version of it? So like at that class in Mount Sterling, I did like a healthy, like a protein pizza, and then I did those little egg bites. That was more like for like on the go, and then protein pancakes. So, but that guy, he's great. If you're like, hey, how can I get my protein up? I'm showing people all the time in the store like his recipes, because it's convenient and they're good.
What is the type of supplement you sell the most of? Is it energy drinks? Is it protein? Is it creatine?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say protein, and like we lean a lot on protein, just going back to that thing that like a lot of us don't eat enough protein. So like, hey, how can we supplement more with it? Like our most popular product is TB16. And
what is that? I forget what that is.
Yeah. So TB16 is made by NG Nutra, and like it's just great for energy. It helps fight cravings. It's got a little bit of metabolism support in there, can ease water retention, has some fiber for digestive support. So just a lot of people like resonate with it. If you ask like 10 people, like, hey, do you want more energy? Do you feel a little bloated? Do you need help fighting cravings? Like, how many people would say probably sign me up? Like a lot of them. So when it comes to like marketing that's how I kind of try to put it out there. And it's been the best product I've ever sold when it comes to like word of mouth and repeat business. Like everybody tells everybody about it.
I have definitely heard of it. I don't think I've ever had it. Would it be like a replacement to, like, if I need to stop drinking so much caffeine and energy drinks, would this be what I need to go to?
It would be. So you wouldn't decrease your caffeine with it, because there is still some caffeine in it, but it'd be like probably a little bit more beneficial formula, if that makes sense. And it depends how you look on it. Like this has got some good cognitive stuff in there.
This is a fairly healthy one, right?
Yeah, I think it's, cleaner can mean different things, but I would definitely consider that like a cleaner energy drink, like less caffeine, natural caffeine, naturally sweetened.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I'm not a huge fan of the taste of this energy drink. I drink it because if I wasn't drinking this, I'd be drinking either a Red Bull or a White Monster.
Yes.
And I'm like, certainly this is better, right?
I would agree. No, I would agree with you. And that's sometimes the trade-off. Like, we have this new company in right now called Just Ingredients, and like they're definitely marketed as cleaner and shorter ingredient label, naturally sweetened, but there's definitely a trade-off. Like usually flavor is not as good. Consistency is not always as good, but you kind of find that balance. Like, hey, what's the healthiest version that I'll actually use and enjoy? So, yep.
What do you think is the vision for Nutrition HQ? Like looking out 5 years from now, I'm talking more yourself personally. Like, is this your store and this is kind of it? Or do you think that eventually you'll be like, hey, let's think about starting another location here or there?
Yeah. Right now I'm trying to create more structure and systems. So maybe like I can step back and not have to be quite as involved. And then, if that happened, which that will happen, it's just taking time, maybe I would entertain the idea of doing another one. Like right now, if you asked me to do another one, I'd say no. I feel like it would take from what we're currently doing. And I don't want to strap myself too thin. But so I would say the vision though, what we're really working on now is like expanding our community involvement. Like we want to do even more stuff in the community. Like that, we had a ladies' night last month and it ended up being really big. And like I'm super excited about it. My wife, she did all the planning on it. She did an awesome job. Like, I'm thinking like 2-3 years down the road, like, is this something like we're going to be known for in Quincy that like we like own and people really look forward to each year? Going off your 75-day hard, we started a challenge last year because the 75-day hard, I'm like, oh, it's such a great idea. I'm like, why? I wish I would have thought of that, know? But you're right, it is kind of intense. So we made a version that created some structure, gave some people some guidance, and we're going to do that each year at the beginning of the year. So I'd like to continue to grow that.
I could see that would take off.
So our goal was to get 50 people to do it this year, and we collabed with like a local fitness company, and we had over 300 sign up. So it was, it was good. There's some kinks I want to work out for next year and streamline some stuff. There were some late nights prepping for that. But to be more specific, I would say like in the next couple of years, like what we really want to do is, expand our community involvement, grow our website, which has been like a whole new ball game. Like what makes us tick in the local market doesn't always translate to like online. So that's been a learning curve. And then the third thing is like, I do really want to entertain the idea of maybe doing something like our own in-house brand.
Okay.
'Cause we can make, tailor it to like what we like the most, and I feel like we're getting to that place. Like you look at guys like Andy Frisella. Okay, he owns Supplement Superstore. I didn't know if you know that or not.
Yep.
And like First Form is like a big in-house brand for them, and that's kind of where First Form started. And now everybody, like he's known for First Form more than he is, I think, probably for S2.
Okay.
And then like the NG Nutra TB16, like that guy, his name's Joel. He's been really good to me. He's a great resource and has taught me quite a bit. He owns stores called Scientific Nutrition, and they're up in like South Dakota and in Northwest Iowa. And so he started out with the stores and then ended up developing TB16 or the brand's NG Nutra to be like their in-house brand. So I'm like, I feel like we're in this position where we can probably start something like that. And, we would not by any means go all out, but we would, in my mindset, we would pick like 1 or 2 SKUs to start with, perfect them, make sure it's right, and then kind of build off that. So.
Yeah. No, that sounds fun. I love seeing the brands grow over time. And I mean, that's kind of why I do the podcast. Like I love talking to guys like you, like Andrew Smith, who I talked to, like Derek, all these guys who are like in the midst of growing these companies. And it's just, I love learning from you guys. It's fun. I'm with you. I love talking to other local owners, and it's just, you're right. It's fun to watch these businesses grow. I love business, and like I have a lot of respect for people that start their own business and watching them blossom. Yep.
And then also, let's be honest, like as a business owner, like you definitely experience challenges. So it's nice to like talk to them and hear them talk about them and realize you're not alone,
What have been like over the last, since you've started or since you bought in 2018, like what has been some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I bought the store, we got a lot bigger than I ever thought we would have gotten. So I didn't have all the systems and processes put in place. So like going back and trying to implement them now is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
This is a very minor one, but right after I bought the store, my HVAC system went out.
Oh, no.
And I think that cost me like $5,000,
No way.
6 months into the lease. So, I don't want to say that's a huge challenge, but it's a lesson. Like if I ever moved my store, I would always have the HVAC inspected because,
it's a good lesson.
Yeah, they essentially, I feel like, had me pay for a new system because my heating and air guy was like, hey, like, how old is this thing? And he's like, oh, it's like 16 years. I'm like, how long do they last? And he's like, probably like 20. And it's like, man, I feel like they're just using me to pay for this thing. So, but lesson learned. They were flexible. I was disappointed, but they still worked a deal out with me where I didn't have to pay everything up front. So,
there's so many lessons to learn along the way. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of what's fun about it too. I mean, do you enjoy the journey of it? I mean, because I could see where like someone like you, because you got so many plates spinning, it's probably at times like stressful. You're just like, you don't even, you got to zoom out sometimes what I'm saying and just enjoy the journey.
I do enjoy the journey. And I love the process. Like definitely there's times where I get stressed out and, you can probably relate navigating that, work, fitness, and really I want to say more work-life balance. There is definitely a commitment when you own your own business where maybe you miss some stuff that you always don't want to. Thankfully I have a wife that's like super supportive, and she definitely is like not in a spotlight, but she's been a driver for the direction the brands went to, like, which is great. She gives like a different perspective on the brand. And, she, like my wife will tell you, she's not one that's big into working out. So she brings a different perspective and kind of has us think a different way, and slows us down. So, but she's super supportive. She helps out a lot. So.
Yeah, same with my wife. I mean, she's kind of behind the scenes of what I do and kind of helps glue it all together.
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah. What is, again, not all local people are probably listening, but as far as like the gym scene here locally in Quincy, I'm just curious your opinion. We had just had Not Anytime. What's the new one that just came to town? Planet Fitness. And do you feel like I guess my question, is there enough gyms in Quincy, or like I don't really know where I'm going with it, but I see all these gyms popping up. I guess there's not that many.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, how many gyms can there be? But yet, I guess the percentage of people that actually go and work out of the general population is probably what, like 5%, 10%?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll have to look that number up. I know where you're going with the question with the gyms. Like, I do feel like there's a lot of gyms in Quincy. I was kind of surprised when they said Planet was coming to town.
A big name like that, I was surprised.
Yeah, and like, I guess what surprised me is like we have the Croc Center, which not a lot of places have. Croc Centers, which is a really nice gym or fitness center. We had Snap Fitness out there, which was 24 hours. There's Anytime Fitness. I believe Snap is not open anymore.
They're not? Okay. I didn't know that.
And then you've got Midwest, you've got Barbell 828, you've got Q-Town. Like, there's a lot to choose from. But, Planet, I will tell you this. Once they opened up in town, like what I noticed was we had like a spike in business.
Did you? Okay.
And and what I was seeing was people were like, oh, I wasn't working out, but hey, this membership's $10 a month. Like this was my sign to maybe get started. And Planet actually has a really good concept. Like, people give that concept a hard time, but I think it's actually really smart. And what I mean by that is they have like the non-intimidating environment. If someone's like attracting too much attention or making someone uncomfortable, like they have that lunk alarm in there.
Is that actually a thing? Like, I hear about it, but is it actually real?
Yeah, it is a thing. I haven't seen it set off, but I know of times when it's been set off. And but like, I think it's really smart in the sense, like going back to us talking about kindness as one of our pillars. Like, so many people are like really intimidated to get started, or they feel like they're going to be judged, or they're uncomfortable. Like, I'll tell you, like for me, when I go to a new gym sometimes, and I've been in this scene for a while, like I still kind of feel like, actually, like first time I bumped down to Q-Town, I went to the earlier time to be with Curtis and Laura and Andrew because I was like, man, I'm going to probably get my butt kicked on this workout. So like, I'd rather go when there's less people, versus like that 6 o'clock time, which I see you guys at. So it can just be intimidating. So like they're trying to create this space where people can come and feel comfortable.
Is there less free weights at that gym?
There's less free weight. So there's a lot of there's dumbbells, but like they don't have like the bench press.
Not be like powerlifting.
Yeah, or like the squat rack. They have something called Smith machines, which are the controlled like the bars on that thing that just goes up and down. Yep. So, I mean, I was surprised how big it was in there too.
Yeah,
so
I was too, and I guess thinking about where I was going with that whole question is. When I saw the big box brand like that coming to town, I was feeling a little bit like nervous for some of the smaller the local gyms. I'm like, man, how many gyms can this town facilitate? And I wonder, if most of the people that go there are like new people that weren't working out, like you said, because maybe it was too expensive or whatever. I just wonder how that all.
Yeah, that's a great question. That was my biggest concern with them coming to town too, was like I'm a big local guy, so I try to support as much local first. And I know there's like several places that are kind of locally owned, and I haven't asked if it's pulled from them much. I think it did start a lot of like new people up, but I'm sure like people have like, I'm gonna people like to try new stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure people had left some of their current places.
Yeah, you know what? I just thought of something. My little sister, I'm pretty sure she said that she has friends that signed up for Planet Fitness simply for the tanning, because it's like $10 a month for the membership, and then maybe just a little bit extra for the tanning or something, which is still like way cheaper than just going and getting a tan. Apparently, I haven't been tanning for a while now, so
I know someone that did the same thing. Like, their gym membership plus their tanning and the massage beds was cheaper than I think what they were paying to go tan. And that would be a thing I'd be kind of curious from like Planet Fitness's like standpoint. I wonder if they almost look at those like as lost leaders. You know what I'm saying? With it, they just get people to sign up, and and I think a lot of the gym aspect is probably built on people signing up and not use like.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people sign up for memberships and they get going and they just never cancel their membership if they don't continue their fitness journey. So, but that would be an interesting to be behind the scenes and hear what their mindset was on that. So,
so what is your personal? I'm sure it like changes over time, but like, what's your personal routine like when it comes to fitness? Are you trying to work out like certain days of the week? Is it like super regimented? What does it look like?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I've been on the struggle bus for the past year and a half, I would say, ever since we've had our son. Geez, that's probably been 3 years. You throw that in there, and we have another one coming in September.
Nice.
So
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. We, I've heard mixed stuff, like once you have one, the second one's not bad. And then I've also heard people say like, hey, going from 1 to 2 is like a lot. So
that's what I've heard.
So we'll see. But, I am just naturally a smaller guy. I don't have a big appetite, and I'm very active, so it's hard for me to keep my weight up. So for years, I used to do like a lot of lifting and not a lot of high intensity stuff. But now, like my mind, because I wanted to be a little bit bigger, my mindset now is just like, hey, whatever makes me feel like energetic and good, and like, I'm looking at it like from a little different standpoint, being able to keep up with my business and my son. Before I had more flexibility to work out too. Now it's like it's kind of when I can get it in. I've been working out late recently. I need to get up and
start. Do you go to a gym or do you work out at home?
Yeah, I go to a gym. So right now I'm going to the Y.
Okay.
But I think I have a membership about every gym in town. No joke. And so I've been going to the Y, and I've been training like, so today, once I finish up with you, I've got to go unload a pallet. And then I've got to go back to the store. We've got some social media stuff we're going to do tonight. Then I'd like to go home, catch my son for a little bit before he goes to bed. Then I want to go back to the store and help him close up. And then once I close up, I'm probably going to train around 8:30 tonight.
Man,
so
busy man.
Yeah, I like that's when it just kind of fits in. I don't feel like I'm missing time from Hudson. Meg is in her second trimester, and she's pretty tired, so she's usually down to pass out pretty fast after Huddy goes to bed. Yeah. So
Huddy, I like that.
Yeah,
Hudson is actually my son's middle name.
Nice.
Yeah, which also we are also expecting. I'm saying this publicly, so I hope I'm not wrong. We are expecting in September as well.
Nice.
I'm pretty
Congrats.
sure that's the right month. My wife is gonna smack me when she hears this, but
so when it comes to workouts, we'll have to come grab each other in September to keep each other in track.
Yeah, it is. You know, that's the thing. Your fitness goals change over time. I mean, growing up, I was always a twig. I mean, super skinny. I was super self-conscious about it, and all I wanted to do was gain weight. And so like there in like the later years of high school and then into college, like I did bulk up a good amount. But it was like eat as much protein and creatine as I could, spend an hour and a half in the gym lifting, real heavy. And anymore, I'm realizing like my goals have changed so much. Now my goal now is like I want to feel healthy. I want to have energy throughout the whole day, and I want to be able to move, like especially since I have kids, a kid now. Getting up and down off the floor, and when I'm 40, 50 years old or older, I'm just thinking more about like preservation at this point of like I'm not trying to get jacked or huge. I just want to be healthy for like the long term.
Functional,
functional.
I think what's like changed my mindset, and I feel like you're in the same route, is like I was so concerned with keeping my weight up, but I kind of was getting to a point where I felt less athletic, and so that's what I. Recently as I've been doing like more running and more endurance stuff, like when I first went to run a mile within like the past couple of years, it was like exhausting. I'm like, okay, I should at least be able to run a mile and feel like I didn't get hit by a bus. So no, I can relate it. And I think, a tough thing for me has been, since business has grown and we've had Hudson, accepting that maybe fitness looks a little bit different for me than what it did, 3 or 4 years ago, just trying to juggle everything,
Yeah, life changes and it changes fast.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So outside of, work and, the family, what hobbies, do you have hobbies you like to spend time doing? Do you golf still or?
Yeah. So I want to golf. I used to golf a decent amount, and last year I wanted to play a lot. Last summer I think I played one time. This year though I'd like to golf a little bit more. The other thing is I'm big into the outdoors. Specifically like turkey hunting and bow hunting. Actually I'm kind of starting to try to dip my feet in like. This may seem like work, but also though, like I truly enjoy this stuff. Some real estate. So I just purchased my first rental property.
Let's go.
2 weeks ago we closed
Congrats.
on it. So, and yeah, we're navigating this whole thing and deciding what we're going to do with it. A driver of it was the business. We were needing some more storage. So, but yeah, I'm kind of, I like that stuff.
That's, man, we could do a whole other hour podcast talking about real estate because that's my thing.
Yes.
I love real estate.
I'm going to be picking your brain.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing. That's the thing. Like I just shooting from the hip and hoping it works.
That's where I was at. I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. So, so yeah, we'll see.
How do you, so with all this stuff, all the hobbies, like how do you manage your time or like decide when enough is enough? Like, okay, maybe I'm spending too much time at work or maybe I'm spending too much time on my hobbies. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I struggle with that. And I've talked to my wife about that, finding that balance of work and, personal life and family time. And I don't know if I have a good answer for that. Me and Megan talked about like, hey, maybe I have a set schedule from this time I work on this, and this, but you probably know as a business owner, like for me, none of my days really look the same.
Yeah.
And what I mean is like stuff just kind of pops up that I have to address. Like, maybe, okay, like we have a pallet of stuff that's probably going to hit tomorrow. And, if the pallet comes damaged, well, that could, shuffle my day around for 2 hours because I need to handle that, And, I think that also that goes back to systems and processes. The more systems and processes I have in play or we have in play at the store, like the more someone else can handle stuff. So that's something I'm definitely working on. So
I was hoping you'd have an answer to solve my problems because I haven't figured it out either.
Yeah, I think maybe using airplane mode and stuff like that would be a little bit better. But that's been a challenge. I feel for you there.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Payne you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I met with Payne for a while. We took a little break here recently, but Payne has been very helpful for me, just being able to kind of like step back from my business and kind of look at it from a third party and be like, hey, maybe we need to adjust this or work on that. So shout out to Payne, you know, for those who don't know. I don't know how he defines himself as like a business and personal coach or what he calls himself, but it's been very helpful.
I agree. You know, somebody had asked me about me working with him recently. I'm like, man, I wish I would have, like, you know, on one hand, I'm like, okay, when I first got started, you know, the funds maybe weren't necessarily there, the budget, but, you know, I wish I would have made something like that work. Actually, I didn't even know of Payne at the beginning, but, you know, I'm like thinking, man, if I would have started him from the beginning, I think I would have had some other stuff established, because he just gives you a different perspective and really makes you think about, you know, whatever challenge you're going through, or I don't even necessarily want to say challenge, but whatever your goal is, like how you're going to get there. So yeah, I definitely shout out to Payne. He does great.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have him on. So
sweet. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Talk to him. So, all right. Well, hey, we're like over 50 minutes into this thing, so we better wrap it up. Yeah, for those of you, I guess you probably have social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. I think my username's like thall09, or if you just go to the Nutrition HQ Quincy page, I'm sure you can find me floating around on there somewhere. And then Facebook, you know, not much of a Twitter or TikTok person, but Instagram and Facebook. So
cool. All right, guys. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate it, Tyler. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Kyle.
Yep. See ya.